Hi, I'm Trevor. Have you guys ever noticed how in life there are some things that seem to happen over and over and over and over and over? I think you guys get the point. Today we're going to be learning about how we can do that in programming using loops. Alright, so now we're going to learn about loops. So what they are is they're a way that we can repeat parts of our code over and over again until a certain thing happens or for a certain amount of time or something along those lines. So we're going to go ahead and start and look at while loops. So while loops, their general structure is like this. So we have the while statement, and then inside of parentheses we put a condition. So this will be, like a comparison of, x equals 5, something like that. And as long as whatever we put inside of here is a true statement, it'll run whatever code is inside of here. So the way that it works is when it goes through the code, it'll run the code above it. Once it gets to the while loop, it'll check the condition. If the condition is true, then it'll run all of the code inside of here, and at the very end it'll come back up here and check the condition again. If it's true, it'll repeat. If it's false, then it'll jump down to the code after the loop. So that's kind of the general structure of the while loop. So let's go ahead and look at it with some actual code. So for this code, I'm pretending that we're reading a sensor here and that we're actually getting a value from it. And for now I just wrote in what the value we're getting is. So let's say we read the sensor and we read that's 101. So we check in our loop, is sensor value greater than 100? It is. So we'll go through and do something. So in this case, let's say we're driving forward. So as long as our sensor value is greater than 100, we're going to drive forward. Then down here we read it again. And let's say we're still reading 101. Then it'll come back through the loop, it'll check, 101 is still greater than 100, so we still move forward. And it'll keep doing that over and over again, looping through these lines of code, until eventually it reaches a number that is less than 100. So now the sensor is reading 90. So now when we come up here, 90 is not greater than 100, so it skips over this part of the code and goes down to here and runs whatever comes after it. So this is very useful for if you want to wait for a sensor to reach a value, or you want to repeat until some condition along those lines is met. There's another type of loop that we're going to learn about. It's called the for loop. For loops are good for being able to repeat things for a certain number of times. So this one looks a little bit different from the while loop. So you notice that there's kind of like three parts to it. So the first one is we create a variable. The name of this variable is I. Now it doesn't have to be I, you can use any variable name as long as you haven't used it before, and it'll be fine. The typical convention is for loops that use a variable name I. So that's why we did it there. And then you go ahead and set it equal to a value. We set it equal to 0. This is kind of, you can set it to whatever number you want. If you're wanting to specifically count, it's easy if you start at 0, but another number will work as well. Then we do a semicolon, and then we have our comparison. So as long as I is less than 5, we'll keep repeating. And again, you can use any comparison you want here, but for specifically doing the counting how many times you loop through, we want to use the less than sign. And then we have another semicolon, and then we have this right here, which might not look very familiar, but what it does is it increases the value of I by 1. So what this does is every time at the very end of the loop, it'll run whatever you put inside of here. So if you do like this, it'll increase I by 1. So now this code will have I start out at 0. It'll check to see if 0 is less than 5. If it is, then it'll run this code here, and at the very end, increase I by 1, and then it checks to see if I is less than 5. And so it'll keep going through and doing this. And as long as you start out at 0, use a regular less than sign, and you increase it by 1 every time through, the number you put here will be how many times it'll repeat the code. So this code here will repeat for 5 times, and then after that, it'll exit out. So by doing this, let's say we wanted to blink an LED for 6 times. So if we go ahead and put in the number 6, and right here we write the code for blinking our LED, we can have it blink 6 times without having to copy and paste it in 6 times. So these are just some of the, a few ways that we can use these loops. There are many different ways, but these are the primary loops that we'll use for programming. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys learned a lot about loops and how we can use them in our programs to repeat stuff over. If you guys have any more questions about it, just leave a comment down below and we can try to get back to you. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day.